For more than a century, Germany's automotive industry stood as an unshakable monument to engineering excellence. The nation that gave birth to the first motorized vehicle became synonymous with precision, luxury, and innovation. In China, the world's largest car market, brands like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi weren't just vehicles. They were aspirational symbols, markers of success, and badges of achievement that millions dreamed of owning. But something unexpected is happening. The empire that seemed invincible is now showing cracks. This year alone, Porsche announced one of its most dramatic workforce reductions in recent history. Nearly 4,000 employees let go in a single restructuring wave, with severance packages totaling approximately 700 million euros. In China, where Porsche once thrived, sales have collapsed by more than half compared to just a few years ago. Across the board, German luxury manufacturers are witnessing their market dominance erode at an alarming pace. What's driving this seismic shift? The answer lies in a technological revolution that's rewriting the rules of the entire automotive sector, and China is leading the charge. Today, we're diving deep into the story of how Germany's legendary car brands lost their grip on the Chinese market, why traditional combustion engines are becoming relics of the past, and how electric vehicle technology has handed China an unprecedented competitive advantage. If you find this analysis valuable, please subscribe to stay updated on our coverage of global economic and technological transformations. Now let's explore what's really happening on the roads of China and beyond. To understand the present crisis, we need to appreciate just how powerful Germany's automotive legacy truly is. Since Carl Benz introduced the patent Motorwagen in 1886, widely recognized as the world's first true automobile, Germany has positioned itself at the forefront of vehicular innovation. Over the subsequent decades, this tradition evolved into something more than mere industrial prowess. It became cultural identity. Germans didn't just build cars, they perfected them. The country developed into Europe's undisputed automotive heartland, hosting an extraordinary concentration of world-renowned manufacturers. Porsche, BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen. Each name carries weight, history, and a reputation built over generations. Together, these brands have dominated global luxury car sales for decades, commanding premium prices and loyal customer bases across continents. What made German vehicles so desirable? The answer lies in their obsessive attention to manufacturing quality. German factories became showcases of industrial automation. Picture massive production facilities operating almost entirely in darkness, so-called dark factories, where hundreds of robotic arms work in perfect synchronization, assembling vehicles with micrometer precision. Human intervention is minimal. Quality control is absolute. Every weld, every component, every surface finish is scrutinized according to rigorous standards that have become the global benchmark. This commitment to excellence cemented the concept of German engineering in the global consciousness. It wasn't just marketing, it was a reputation earned through consistent delivery of reliable, well-crafted vehicles that could last for decades with proper maintenance. For years, Germany maintained its position as Europe's largest automobile producer, exporting millions of vehicles worldwide. But among all international markets, one stood out as particularly crucial: China. Germany's relationship with the Chinese automotive market began in earnest during the 1980s, a period when China was just beginning to open its economy to foreign investment. Volkswagen led the way. In 1984, the company signed a landmark joint venture agreement with Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, marking the beginning of what would become 4 decades of continuous vehicle production on Chinese soil. This wasn't just a business deal. It was the foundation of an economic partnership that would eventually become vital to Germany's automotive industry. As China's economy grew at breakneck speed through the 1990s and 2000s, so did its appetite for automobiles. And German brands were perfectly positioned to capitalize on this hunger. By the time we reached 2021, Arguably the peak year for German automakers in China, the numbers were staggering. Volkswagen alone sold 3.3 million vehicles in China that year. To put this in perspective, the brand's sales across the entire rest of the world totaled 8.6 million units. This means China accounted for nearly 39% of Volkswagen's global sales from a single market. Mercedes-Benz and BMW each moved between 700,000 and 800,000 vehicles in China during the same period. Even ultra-premium brands saw extraordinary success. Porsche, a manufacturer of high-performance sports cars with price tags often exceeding $100,000, sold 95,000 vehicles in China in 2021, representing roughly 30% of its worldwide sales volume. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 1 in 3 Porsches sold globally ended up in Chinese driveways. These weren't just impressive sales figures. They represented fundamental dependency. The Chinese market had become a cornerstone supporting the entire German automotive sector. Profits from China funded research and development in Germany. Chinese demand kept German factories running at capacity. The relationship seemed mutually beneficial and sustainable. German leadership understood this strategic importance clearly. When the European Union began implementing aggressive tariff increases targeting Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers in 2024, Germany's chancellor made his position unmistakably clear during an official visit to Beijing. He publicly stated that Germany welcomed Chinese automotive companies entering German markets and called for fair, open competition. He even urged European policymakers to reconsider and roll back the tariff escalations. This wasn't just diplomatic courtesy, it was recognition of economic reality. But despite this political support and decades of market leadership, something fundamental began to change. German luxury brands started losing ground, not gradually, but precipitously. The shift didn't happen overnight, but when it accelerated, the speed shocked industry observers. Let's focus on Porsche as a case study, because the brand's trajectory illustrates the broader crisis facing German manufacturers. As mentioned, Porsche sold 95,000 vehicles in China in 2021, an all-time high representing nearly a third of global sales. It seemed like the Chinese market's appetite for premium German sports cars was insatiable. But then the decline began. Sales dropped in 2022. They fell further in 2023. By the first half of 2025, Porsche sold just 21,300 vehicles in China, compared to 48,600 units during the same period in 2021. This represents a catastrophic 56% decline in just 4 years, marking the brand's weakest half-year performance in China since 2014. Financial analysts reviewing Porsche's operations in China suggest that after accounting for operational costs, marketing expenses, and discounting required to move inventory, the brand may no longer be generating profit in the market. Some projections indicate Porsche might actually be operating at a loss in what was once its second-largest market globally. And Porsche isn't alone in this downward spiral. Mercedes-Benz saw its sales decline by 14% in the first half of this year, moving only 293,000 units. Audi experienced a 10% drop, selling just 280,000 vehicles. BMW managed to reach 318,000 units, but even this represented a year-over-year decline of 15.5%. When you aggregate the numbers across all major German luxury brands operating in China, total sales have fallen to their lowest level in over a decade, an 11-year low that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. So what happened? These brands had spent decades building prestige, establishing dealer networks, and cultivating customer loyalty. Why would Chinese consumers suddenly turn away from vehicles they once considered the ultimate status symbols? The answer lies in a technological transformation that has fundamentally altered what consumers expect from automobiles. The electric revolution, a fundamental industry transformation. The global automotive industry is, well, undergoing its most significant transformation since Henry Ford introduced the moving assembly line over a century ago. And at the heart of this change is the shift from internal combustion engines to electric powertrains. For Germany, whose entire automotive tradition was built around perfecting gasoline and diesel engines, this transition represents, honestly, an existential challenge. Meanwhile, Chinese manufacturers saw an opportunity. Over the past decade, Chinese automotive companies invested enormous resources into electric vehicle development, battery technology, and intelligent driving systems. The strategy was clear. If Chinese brands couldn't beat German engineering at traditional cars, they would leapfrog the competition entirely by dominating the next generation of vehicles. And it worked. Today's Chinese consumers, particularly younger buyers, have fundamentally different expectations than previous generations. They're not just looking for build quality and brand prestige. They want cutting-edge technology, extensive customization options, advanced autonomous features, and seamless integration with their digital lives. Chinese manufacturers responded by pushing boundaries in areas where traditional automakers had moved cautiously. Take autonomous driving capabilities as an example. This is where the gap between Chinese and Western manufacturers becomes starkest. Tesla's full self-driving system, often considered the benchmark in Western markets, remains limited in its operational scope. The technology works reliably in certain cities and countries, but geographic restrictions still apply due to regulatory hurdles and technological limitations. In China, autonomous driving has advanced far more rapidly across a broader range of conditions. Consider XPeng's XNGP system. This advanced driver assistance platform operates smoothly across most Chinese cities without requiring high-definition mapping data, a significant technical achievement. The system can navigate complex urban environments, handle unpredictable traffic patterns, and make real-time decisions in situations that would confuse less sophisticated systems. Huawei's ADS autonomous driving platform demonstrates even more impressive capabilities. It handles heavily congested roads with confidence, navigates narrow alleyways that barely accommodate vehicle width, and performs reliably during night driving when visibility is compromised. The system uses sophisticated sensor fusion combining cameras, radar, and LiDAR to create comprehensive environmental awareness. Li Auto's AD Max system prioritizes stability and safety, employing high-resolution LiDAR sensors to detect obstacles, pedestrians, and road hazards with remarkable precision. The conservative approach resonates with safety-conscious buyers who want autonomous features without feeling like they're beta testing unproven technology. Perhaps most remarkably, features that Western manufacturers still market as premium upgrades, automatic lane changes, intelligent overtaking, pedestrian detection and avoidance, automated parking in complex spaces, have become standard expectations in Chinese electric vehicles. They're not luxury add-ons, they're baseline features. The innovation extends beyond software. Some Chinese manufacturers have developed capabilities that seem almost science fiction to Western observers. Take the Huawei-branded vehicles equipped with sophisticated water fording systems. These cars can drive through flooded streets, a common occurrence in many Chinese cities during monsoon seasons, thanks to comprehensive waterproofing of electronic control systems and high-voltage components. Multiple sensors continuously monitor water depth, and if the system detects dangerous conditions, it automatically limits speed, issues warnings, and can even refuse to proceed into potentially damaging flood zones. This wasn't developed as a marketing gimmick. It emerged from understanding actual Chinese driving conditions and solving real problems that local drivers face regularly. Similarly, Li Auto introduced an advanced in-place turning feature that allows vehicles to rotate almost within their own footprint. This isn't a crude tank-style spin, it's an AI-controlled adjustment of individual wheel rotation speeds that enables the vehicle to navigate extremely tight spaces. For Chinese urban environments where narrow alleyways, tight corners, illegal parking, and compact parking spaces are daily realities, this capability provides genuine practical value. German manufacturers,
built around fundamentally different road conditions and use cases, simply didn't develop these features because they weren't solving for the Chinese market-specific challenges.
Battery technology, where China leads the world. Beyond autonomous driving, China has established commanding leadership in the technology that makes electric vehicles viable batteries. The fundamental advantage electric vehicles hold over traditional combustion engines is eliminating range anxiety, the fear of running out of power far from charging infrastructure. And in this crucial area, Chinese manufacturers have achieved breakthrough progress. Whether discussing lithium iron phosphate batteries, advanced lithium-ion formulations, or emerging semi-solid state battery technologies, Chinese companies operate at the industry's cutting edge. The average driving range of Chinese manufactured electric vehicles now exceeds 528 kilometers on a single charge, more than adequate for daily commuting and regional travel. Some premium models exceed 1,000 kilometers, matching or even surpassing the range of traditional gasoline vehicles. This battery advantage translates into market dominance. Today, Chinese companies manufacture approximately 77% of all electric vehicle batteries produced globally. Companies like CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited, and BYD don't just supply Chinese automakers. They're becoming primary battery suppliers for major manufacturers worldwide, including some German brands. Germany, meanwhile, has struggled in this critical technology domain. Porsche's experience illustrates the broader German challenge. Recognizing that battery technology would be critical to electric vehicle competitiveness, Porsche invested heavily in developing proprietary high-performance battery capabilities. The company poured over €1 billion into research and development, established a joint venture called Cellforce to manufacture advanced battery cells, and planned dedicated production facilities. The goal was ambitious: create differentiated, high-performance battery technology that would give Porsche electric vehicles distinctive advantages over competitors. But the project ran into fundamental obstacles. The planned production capacity was too small to achieve economies of scale, meaning per-unit battery costs remained prohibitively high. Without the volume to spread development costs across millions of cells, the economics simply didn't work. Despite the enormous investment, mass production was never achieved. In 2025, Porsche quietly abandoned the project, recording a special charge of €2.7 billion to cover the costs of this strategic retreat. The company terminated the Cellforce joint venture and delayed its SSP Sport platform, the planned foundation for next-generation high-performance electric models. It was, honestly, a stunning admission of defeat in a technology domain critical to future competitiveness. This pattern extends beyond Porsche. German manufacturers collectively entered the electric transition later than their Chinese counterparts, invested less aggressively in battery technology, and now find themselves technologically behind in the industry's most critical component. The value equation, when premium loses its meaning. Technology alone doesn't explain the dramatic shift in Chinese consumer preferences. Economics matters too. The global economy has faced some pretty significant headwinds in recent years: pandemic disruptions, supply chain crises, inflation, and of course, geopolitical tensions. Chinese consumers, just like people everywhere, have become more price-conscious and value-focused. And when domestic alternatives offer comparable or even superior features at much lower prices, the premium attached to foreign luxury brands becomes harder and harder to justify. So let's consider the Xiaomi SU7, which was launched in 2024 by the Chinese electronics giant that's already famous for smartphones and consumer technology. This fully electric sedan starts at around $35,000, a fraction of what comparable German luxury vehicles cost. Yet it offers an impressive 835-kilometer range and features that really rival or even exceed more expensive alternatives. Xiaomi positions this vehicle as a direct competitor to Tesla's Model 3, but it also goes head-to-head with entry-level German luxury sedans. And honestly, the value proposition is compelling. The SU-7 showcases the kind of intelligent ecosystem integration that Chinese manufacturers really excel at creating. In underground parking garages, notorious for poor GPS signals and navigation difficulties, users don't waste time wandering between rows searching for their vehicle. Instead, the car's location can be pinpointed through a connected smartwatch, and the vehicle can actually autonomously navigate to the owner. While other manufacturers offer similar features, Xiaomi's implementation reportedly performs more reliably in environments with weak cellular signals. A small detail, but one that really matters in daily use. This represents a fundamental shift in consumer calculation. Why pay double or triple the price for a German badge when domestic alternatives offer superior technology, better local adaptation, and exceptional value? For middle-class Chinese consumers, who by the way represent the vast majority of luxury car buyers, this equation increasingly favors domestic brands. Not just Germany, the broader foreign brand retreat. Before anyone jumps to the conclusion that this story is about Germany specifically, it's worth noting that Japanese automakers have experienced an even more dramatic collapse in the Chinese market. From 2010 through 2020, Japanese brands enjoyed tremendous success in China. By 2019, Japanese manufacturers commanded about 25% of the Chinese market, meaning 1 out of every 4 vehicles sold in China carried a Japanese badge. But by 2025, the situation had reversed catastrophically. Mitsubishi exited the Chinese market entirely, closing operations and withdrawing after years of declining sales. Mazda, once popular among enthusiast drivers, has been pushed to the margins with only minimal market presence. Nissan announced factory closures and significant workforce reductions. Honda, one of Japan's most prestigious brands, was forced to dramatically scale back Chinese operations as sales plummeted. The root cause here really mirrors Germany's challenge. Japanese manufacturers remained committed to traditional fuel engines and hybrid powertrains even as the market shifted decisively toward full electrification and intelligent vehicle systems. Ironically, Japanese automakers actually pioneered hybrid technology with the Toyota Prius in the late 1990s. For 2 decades, hybrid vehicles represented Japan's competitive advantage, offering better fuel economy than traditional cars while avoiding the range limitations of early electric vehicles. But China's manufacturers didn't just match Japanese hybrid technology, they actually surpassed it. Today, Chinese automakers produce hybrid vehicles with better efficiency, more advanced features, and lower prices than Japanese competitors. And in the full electric vehicle segment where the market has decisively moved, Japanese manufacturers lag significantly behind both Chinese and American competitors. The result has been a market share collapse that, honestly, would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. Europe's response: protectionism and its limits. Faced with China's electric vehicle dominance, European policymakers responded with a familiar tool: tariffs. In 2024, the European Union implemented significant tariff increases on Chinese-manufactured electric vehicles, arguing that Chinese companies benefited from unfair government subsidies that distorted competition. Additional duties ranging from 17% to 38% were imposed on various Chinese manufacturers, on top of existing 10% tariffs. The stated goal was to protect European automotive jobs and give European manufacturers time to develop competitive electric vehicles. But honestly, this protective strategy faces some fundamental problems. First, tariffs don't address the underlying technological gap. Adding import costs to Chinese vehicles doesn't make European vehicles more technologically advanced. It doesn't accelerate battery development or improve autonomous driving systems. It simply makes electric vehicles more expensive for European consumers, potentially slowing the broader transition away from combustion engines. Second, China represents such a critical market for European manufacturers that antagonizing Chinese policymakers carries significant risks. If China responded with retaliatory measures targeting European automotive imports, German manufacturers would suffer disproportionately given their heavy dependence on Chinese sales. This explains why German leadership publicly opposed the EU tariff escalation. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz understood that protecting European markets through tariffs could provoke Chinese countermeasures that would devastate German automotive exports. But political opposition to tariffs doesn't solve the fundamental competitive challenge. Chinese manufacturers have established technological leadership in the automotive industry's next generation. European manufacturers are playing catch-up. The deeper question: can traditional manufacturers adapt? The decline of German luxury brands in China raises a question with implications far beyond just one market or one industry. Can established companies built around legacy technologies successfully transition when fundamental disruptions occur? History suggests this is extraordinarily difficult. Think about Kodak, which invented digital photography but failed to capitalize on the innovation because it threatened their film business. Consider Nokia, which dominated mobile phones but missed the smartphone transition. Remember Blockbuster, which dismissed Netflix as a niche competitor. Incumbent companies face structural challenges when transformative technologies emerge. Their business models, supply chains, workforce skills, and organizational cultures are all optimized around existing technologies. Executives rose to leadership by mastering the old paradigm. Workers developed expertise in processes that are becoming obsolete. Factories embody billions of dollars in sunk costs tied to traditional manufacturing. Pivoting away from profitable legacy businesses to invest in uncertain new technologies requires courage, vision, and often painful organizational transformation. German automotive manufacturers face exactly this challenge. Their expertise lies in precision engineering of complex mechanical systems. Internal combustion engines with thousands of moving parts, sophisticated transmissions, advanced suspension systems. Their factories are optimized for these products.